What brought you down the path? I mean, you could have been an engineer, you could have been a doctor.
What did inspire me, actually, first and foremost, is family. On my book cover is actually an olive branch. It's an olive branch story, and I think a lot of us have them, and it takes a lot to get to the point where you're going to be the one to give that olive branch over. And it takes some skills to do that. For me, that's where it started, and that was my inspiration. It was the most impactful. So I'll be able to share a little bit of that here. And the second inspiration that I had is really when you think about what's happening in our society right now, the people who are suffering right now with mental anxiety. I chose to go down this path because I really want to have an impact here. There's conflict, whether it's at the dinner table, whether it's in the classroom, whether it's just walking across the street, and it truly needs to be addressed inside and out. I'm just hoping that the readers, when my book comes out, which is going to be on the 20th. Name of the book, again, is Bridging the Divide. I believe that through the book, people will learn more about themselves, what their part is when a conflict arises, and Bridging the Divide will give them the tools they need to move through these conflicts that we have continuously, and they can minimize that pain that they're feeling and ultimately have more peace in their lives, which I think we all really want.
There's so much to deal with today. I mean, going back, every generation said, well, we had all this and we had to deal with that. Yeah. But now people have been so involved in politics and there's such a divide there. We need to bring you to Congress and have you be the Speaker of the House and try to get these people together. All these situations with other countries and the Great Divide with the politics and all these issues. Have you found it a little bit more challenging now and people are under more stress today? Are you noticing? Because now you're getting a wedding party that they don't know who to invite because so many were divided about, say the politics, for instance, or the COVID shot and all these issues. Like you say, you're getting family and friends that are somewhat dividing because of these issues, which I think over time they'll start melting away. But have you noticed that? That's been more of a challenge for you?
Well, most definitely. I mean, since, there's been this trickle effect and people are having a difficult time, I think, letting go of a lot of those triggers and those emotions that are kind of bubbling up within them. I think the misconception that we have is that there has to be a loser in a conflict.
Yeah.
And that's a complete misnomer, that someone has to win, or we have to get to that solution really, really quick. So we'll wipe it under the rug. It will go away. Or let's say we just don't deal with it at all. I'm not going to deal with the conflict whatsoever. So there are all these things that I go through and some of the tools that I give so people will understand, first of all, what their part is, truly what their part is within that conflict, and then come to the best solution possible in how they're going to communicate. And that's where NLP can come in, by the way, and then get to that resolution.
Yeah, for those that don't know what NLP is, explain it in your words.
Personally, Eric, honestly, I think it's more about how you're going to communicate with those people. It's in our approach, right? Even in conflicts, it's all in our approach. That in itself will draw the response that you're looking for, correct?
Yeah.
So that's where my mind wraps around NLP. I think, communication is my background. That's where I came from, and marketing communications. That's what I'm bringing to the table. I think a great chapter is, effective communication skills, because there's a lot more and we hear it a lot, but some of the tools that I give and the strategies I give that play into effective negotiation will be extremely helpful to people.
Initial communication is very important, because people judge a company or a person literally within the first few seconds that they have contact. I was a communications major like you at Cal State Fullerton, and today it's even there have been a lot of changes with the instruction because there's been a lot of changes.
What I've done is I've broken down the book in many chapters, starting with just the nature of conflict resolution to begin with, and how you can identify those personal triggers, because some people don't even realize it, right? What's triggering them. And I think that is extremely important. And then how you want to set intentions when you're about to get into something, how to prep yourself both physically, emotionally, and mentally when you know you're about to get into a difficult conversation. And again, we have many of these throughout our lives. People more and more are coming from that past experience that they've had with someone, whether it's politics or whether it's just how you tie a shoe. People get very indignant on where their opinion is. To open ourselves up a little bit more and appreciate each other's differences, I think that will make a world of difference.
So what about if we go down the topic of relationships? You have a husband and wife, you have a brother and sister, you have, you know, the conflict in general. There's a lot of people I'm sure that would want to know the best way to find that resolution when there's an issue.
Well, I mean, again, I'm gonna play on a personal situation where that olive branch was given out, and this was after my 50th birthday, and my sister and I and mom actually had a breakdown after my 50th, and it was 3 years in the making that we had no communication, and that was pretty tough. You know, and it was really tough for me to take that olive branch and find it in my soul to finally, you know, hand it over. Now, in that situation, and I talk about mediation in the book actually, and it's important. It's an important third party. The way you have third parties doing a lot of stuff, Eric, well, there's third party even in conflict resolution. I can come in as that third party. I needed that third party for this particular situation with my sister. But I think the two things that really were impactful that came out of that is, number one, my skill for listening just literally raised the bar, you know, in terms of understanding that I have to shut up, you know, when someone's talking and really hear through them and repeat something someone is saying to me, because then you're building that respect and they're really getting that you hear them. The second thing that is really important and very tough, especially for men, quite frankly, to wrap around, is getting vulnerable. Vulnerability is a big deal, and vulnerability doesn't necessarily mean you're going to break down and cry, though quite frankly, shedding tears literally helps our bodies. It helps our bodies detoxify. It's found that crying triggers actually the release of oxytocin and endorphins, and it's body's natural feel good. So really important. I think my sister and I, we screamed it out, which is why we needed that mediator, right? Both at different times, not at the same time, which without the mediator, guess what? That's probably what would have happened. And then there were plenty and plenty of tears, but we got back to what was important. And that's the thing that I'm trying to do with people in general, get back to what's important. And what was important to us is our love for each other and the care for my mom.